Il avait un lightsaber.
Oui, un lightsaber.
Le lightsaber terrible. Ah!
What up, gamers? And welcome. Weapons. We all love them. They're delicious. They're great. Hack and slash, kill, knife, stab, wound. It's all good. It's all great. We love it. And Vermintide has a lot of weapons. A lot. Like, if someone was crazy enough to actually screenshot and individually cut out every single weapon in Vermintide and put it on the screen at the same time, it would look something like this. That's right. Now, there's 65 weapons in Vermintide. I believe it's, I forgot the numbers, of course. I think it was like 23 or 26 ranged weapons, and the rest obviously melee weapons. Now, today we're gonna jump back to the most requested video I've ever had requested, which is an update on the weapon tier list. Obviously, there's gonna be a dagger at the top every single time. The party knife is of course the best weapon. No. So I've been working on several days for this video. That's why there haven't been any other uploads, because two major projects, this one and the Bardin guide. Now, just quickly before we get to the actual first listing, I just want to touch really briefly on how I've made the weapon tier list. I talked way too long about that last time, so I'll just do it very, very briefly. I essentially made this system last time that I used, that you can see here, which essentially scores all of the weapons by different metrics, right? And I've made a couple of changes to it compared to last time, and due to your feedback from the last video, I have chosen this time to only use the points as a estimate. And instead, whenever I disagreed with my own system, I essentially just put them where I wanted to. So just wanted to mention that. So it's not as objective as last time, but it's probably still going to be more accurate. And yeah, it's subject to change, right? Anyways, I hope you guys enjoy, and let's get started. Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it. Almost there. And there we go. Like the new decorations? And I mean like the setup out on your screen, not in here. Anyways, first up, as always, is the Mercenary Kruber, because he has the annoying advantage of being first in the UI. But as you can see here, on the S tier, we have the Executioner Sword, we have the 𝒮𝔴𝔞𝔢𝔯𝒮𝔮𝔲𝔞𝔐 Spear, and we have the Sword and Mace, as well as the Repeater Handgun. Now, the Repeater Handgun is by far the most versatile of his ranged weapons for the Mercenary. It allows you to deal with both elites and specials quickly, and it's not dependent on that one-shot kill, whereas the handgun is more accurate, it's safer, so to speak. It's easier to get that one special kill, but it's also less versatile, which is why it's been placed a little bit lower. Now, what all the S-tier weapons have in common is that they're versatile. They have some form of cleave, and in the case of the Executioner Sword, it also has insane armor damage, right? And a good mixture of both. And you can see that in the A tier as well. It's weapons that have both armor damage and cleave, but also some amount of mobility. And that is what the lower tier weapons are lacking. You're making a bad trade-off with either of those weapons. And even with the sword and shield and mace and shield, then you simply lack mobility, and you'll find yourself getting stuck a lot. Yeah, that's about it. Let's move on. Up next, we got the Huntsman. And no surprises there, the longbow on top. Again, by far the best weapon for the Huntsman, no doubt about it. 𝒮𝔴𝔞𝔢𝔯𝒮𝔮𝔲𝔞𝔐 Spear, again, because it has both cleave potential, but it also has amazing block cost modifiers, it has a big push arc, those kind of things, right? Make it a safer choice. But you can also go for the sword and mace, or the one-handed mace, since, again, here we're talking about items that can actually cleave, generate temporary HP effectively, which is absolutely necessary on the Huntsman, because your damage is coming primarily from your ranged attacks, so you need some form of survivability, which is why those are the go-to weapons, which is also why you can see the hammer, two-handed sword, heavy, slow, low mobility weapons in the bottom, because you're going to have a bad time with those on the Huntsman. Let's be honest about that. Now, the Repeater Handgun has swapped places with the normal handgun for the Huntsman, because of his ulti, among other things, and because the repeater handgun isn't amazing for the Huntsman. It's not bad, but it's not amazing either, right? Because you're gonna have a bad time with those on the Huntsman. Let's be honest about that. And move on to the Footknight, where it's the other way around. You see, all of his S tiers are primarily the shielded weapons, because you need to be able to stagger stuff, you need to be able to crowd control, you need to be able to hold a position and sort of be a wall for your teammates, and that's why they're in the top. The reason the handgun is S tier on the Footknight as opposed to the two other scenarios is that you don't want to you don't want to draw out your weapon, ranged weapon, that often on the Footknight. You're not a ranged focused hero. You want to be that wall. But when you then do pull out your ranged weapon, you want to make sure that, I mean, that's an important special. It has to die, and that's why the handgun exceeds for the Footknight. So you know, you shoot, you hit, you kill, and then you can pull out your other weapon immediately, or as quickly as possible. Now, the reason that weapons like the Bretonnian Longsword have such a low placement here is their ability to stagger stuff. Like, the Footknight is really stagger heavy, he needs that, and some amount of either high DPS or mobility. And whilst you can get the Executioner Sword on him, again, I feel like that would be missing the point. Then you might as well have played the Mercenary in the first place, right? So, so yeah, that's why they're placed the way they are. Moving on to the Grail Knight, Lord of all Sims. Looking at the S tier, no surprises there. It's the shielded weapons, the Bretonnian Sword and Shield, the normal Sword and Shield, but also the Executioner Sword, because it just provides an amazing amount of kill power for this hero. Like with the overhead power or power from kill, allows you to hit a bunch of amazing breakpoints. And again, you still want to have that defensive capability, especially with the Bretonnian, the Grail Knight, because you have two melee weapons, so you need at least one of them to be a defensive choice, right? Which is why, again, you can also see the Mason Shield in the A tier, alongside the Sword and Mace, again, because it has a high mobility, which is also one way to go, and the two-handed sword, because it has the capability of damaging multiple armored minions, which is, a rare trait that only very few weapons have, which is super, super useful. And yeah, let's move on to the Dwarf. First up, we got the Ranger Veteran. Now, all of the S tiers, pretty straightforward. It's the dual wheel hammers. They're pretty much S tier for all of the Dwarfs. Like, no doubt about it. Definitely the most versatile of his melee weapons. Has the mobility, it has the defensive, it has the cleave, it has everything you need to stay alive. Then you also have the new Masterwork pistol, because it's insane. Like, it's one of the best ranged weapons, hands down. And the only competitor it really has on Bardin would be the crossbow. Again, the crossbow is consistent, one-shot specials, and it's better at long ranges. I would say the Masterwork pistol is slightly better than overall, but time will tell. Then we got the new insane two-handed patchwork hammer, which is really, really good and has a really good light attack combo. It is still a bit risky though on the Ranger Bardin, I would say. It's not my favorite, but it's definitely up there among the better ones, better weapons. One-handed hammer, again, because on the Ranger Veteran, survivability is your first, second, and third focus when you are picking your melee weapon, because you're focusing on range damage, right? And it gives you pretty much everything that the two dual wheel hammers give you, just with a tiny bit less DPS, right? A bit less, a bit less flair. Then we have the two-handed hammer, again, just a great all-around weapon in general. Also followed by, the Grudge Raker, of course, which can deal a shitload of damage. Fact, right? And then you got the handgun, which again has been placed fairly low, but I feel like at the moment the patchwork pistol simply overshines the handgun. In, like, I know they're not exactly trying to fill the same role, but yeah, that's why it's all the way down in the B tier. Then we have all of the horrible weapons for the Ranger Bardin. The shields, the one-handed axe, because it has mobility, but it has no cleave, so you're essentially gonna get wrecked by hordes. And of course you got the two-handed axe and the pickaxe, where they're heavy, they're slow, and they're not amazing at cleave, right? You can cleave with the pickaxe, but that requires attack speed to keep that up. And of course, the weapon, for those of you who've been watching for a while, know that I hate the most in this entire game, and it gives me great pleasure to tell you that I've put the throwing axes in the bottom, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. And that's all I'm gonna say about that. Moving on, Ironbreaker. Again, pretty much the same story in the S tier. It's the same weapons, except now you're on the Ironbreaker, you want to play the strength, you also have the axe and the shield. And in the tier right below, you also have the mace and the shield. Again, crowd control, keeping your team alive. But it's a similar story with the hammers being high here, because the Ironbreaker, he has the survivability. So he has a better time. Like he can better justify getting just one two-handed weapon and going for that DPS, because he's more than capable of staying alive all on his own due to his passive traits. Then you got the crossbow in the top, again with the patchwork pistol, the one-shot special kill, because that's always more important, and then the Drakefire weapons. Again, I wish the Drakefire weapons were better. I'm not saying they're bad, they're more than viable for quick play, just to let me make that clear. You shouldn't avoid them. But on the highest difficulties, again, it's not the horde itself that kills you, it's not the trash minion that kills you, and you need to be able to take out that special. So, and that's also why the Grudge Raker on the Ironbreaker has been put fairly low, because you just don't really get the value out of it you need without any other sort of ranged damage traits. Yeah, moving on, we got the Slayer, the man and the melee, I mean dwarf. Anyways, now it's pretty quick. For him, I would say, again, simply due to versatility, you still have the dual wield hammers, and you have the new hammer. Why the new hammer over the old hammer? In a lot of ways, it's like an executioner sword. Like, it has insane damage, and it's also easier to use. So, like, where the normal two-handed hammer, you use light attacks for armor damage and heavy attacks for sort of cleave. Then with the new one, you use light attacks for cleave and heavy attacks for armor, which I don't know if it intuitively, I don't know if it mechanically actually makes a difference, but it just feels more intuitive, in my opinion. And the flow just seems to be better. It feels easier to use the hammer. Plus, it has insane damage, so definitely amazing. And of course, the pickaxe, the single highest damage output of any attack, like weapon attack in the game. And one step down, we have the dual axes, and I really wish I could put the dual axes up there in the S tier. I really wish I could, but I can't. They're pretty much just a worse version of the hammers, which sucks. The hammers should probably get nerfed. They shouldn't deal as much armor damage as they do, if any at all. It should be the situation similar to daggers versus swords. It's not entirely the same, but yeah, I mean, when you can deal as much armor damage, then there's just no downside to picking the hammers. But the axes just look so much cooler. That's the thing. That's his OG item. Anyways, then you have the one-handed hammer, which you might be thinking, one-handed hammer, but why would I ever put a one-handed hammer on the Slayer? Are you stupid? It's actually one of the best weapons if you're going for the attack speed. If you're going for the attack speed talent, then the best thing you can do is have dual wield hammers, and then a one-handed hammer, or dual axes if you want to look badass, and then a one-handed hammer, because the one-handed hammer has amazing survivability and more stamina than any other of his items, which is why it remained a step up. And you know, I bumped up the throwing axes. I thought, okay, throwing axe, one-handed axe. It's like, I mean, I guess one of them can actually sometimes kill stuff. So, yeah, I'm not a fan of the throwing axes. I'm really not. I think they're horrific. But again, that doesn't mean you shouldn't play them. In quick play, it's totally fine. Now, moving on. At last, we have the dwarf of the hour. It is the Outcast Engineer. Now, no surprises in the S tier. It's still the dual hammers, versatile, high mobility, good cleave, can do everything you ask of them. Of course, we have the new and not at all broken patchwork pistol, which is just amazing. It's just an amazing weapon, and it fits him so well. Now, I've put the crossbow in the S tier as well, although I do think that the pistol is slightly better overall. But the crossbow is still, again, so versatile, it's accurate, it can take out those specials at long distances. Now, the reason I've put the patchwork hammer, as amazing and OP of a weapon as it is, a tier below the hammers for the Outcast Engineers in particular, is because I feel like in the context of quick play, you need that mobility, or you risk getting wrecked. Like, survivability above all. I would say with a pre-made team, the hammer might actually be the better choice of the two, the new patchwork hammer. But I found myself, at least with random sometimes, quite often getting surrounded and sort of uncomfortable, right? And you need mobility with this hero because you need to utilize his amazing ulti, and that requires that you're mobile. And for those reasons, I think the dual hammers are better. But both of the two-handed hammers are still amazing weapons with high armor damage, high cleave, and yeah, just all around good weapons. Then I put the flamethrower up there for sort of the same reasons I just mentioned, that if you combo with the sort of the hammers, then that might actually give some relief. But I am still uncertain about that one, as I'm still working on the guide, right? So you should take his placement with a bit more of a grain of salt, I would say, since I haven't had enough time to sort of properly test every single one in detail. But I've put the low mobility weapons, low cleave in the bottom, and sort of the more generalized ones in the top. And all ranged weapons work for him, but I think I have a very hard time seeing the Drakefire pistols being of any use at all on him. So they got the bottom tier, and with that said, let's move on. Now moving on to the elf, which happens to be my area of best expertise. Got the sword and dagger in the S tier, no surprises there. The spear as well. In the case of Waystalker, it simply provides such an amazing mixture of survivability, crowd control, as well as having a decent damage output. The longbow, by far the best ranged weapon overall for the elf, so that's the S tier. Then we got the Handmaiden, slightly below in the A tier. The same with the dual swords. Now the dual swords in the case of Waystalker are a tier above the dual daggers. This is because staying alive comes first, and in the case of Waystalker, really you're going to use your ranged for DPS, so you need to be able to generate temp HP and stay alive with your melee weapon, and thus the dual swords are better for Waystalker than the dual daggers. And then we got the swift bow underneath, no surprises there either. And like in the two lowest tiers, we have the glaive and the one-handed axe, neither of which are particularly good, although we all love using the glaive. But even after the recent buffs it had, it's still not a great item. Definitely playable, but yeah. And then we have the two-handed sword there. Again, no surprise, not one of the best items in the game. Moving on to Handmaiden. We of course again have the sword and dagger, and now also the spear and shield in the S tier. No arguing either of those. Those are the two best Handmaiden weapons for sure. And again the longbow. Then this time in the A tier we have both the dual daggers, the spear, and the two-handed swords. Not two-handed swords, dual wield swords. And they all provide like I do think daggers are a bit better, in my personal opinion, than the dual swords for Handmaiden specifically. But that's hard to justify, actually. The spear, though, again, amazing, super versatile weapon. And really, almost everything works on a Handmaiden, right? That's the thing about Handmaiden. That's why she doesn't have anything in the lowest tier, because with that survivability, you can really make anything work, right? Which is also why even my very, very hated one-handed elf axe, probably my The only elf weapon that I never use, ever, even that I had to place decently high up, because you can actually get the value you need from it and still stay alive consistently on the Handmaiden. Moving on, we got Shade. Shade, oh yes. Now in the S tier, of course, no surprises, once again, it's the sword and dagger and it's the longbow. Why? Well, they are the most versatile elf weapons in the game. That's just the facts. Right underneath, we have the dual daggers and the dual swords. Now, I would say that I think it's very hard to pick which one of those two is the best. It's very situational. They're extremely good at sort of two branches or two ways of playing Shade. But definitely those two are better than the following, which is the spear and the one-handed sword. Either of which works, but you know, we're getting down to like, yeah, not the best anymore. They sort of get overshined by the dual weapons. Then we have the unfortunately horrible volley crossbow for Shade. I wanna love it. It was one of the first reds I ever got in the game, and I remember using it for the first many hundred hours I played Shade, and I really wish that they would buff it, like hard buff it, because it's just terrible. It's just a bad weapon, as much as I love it, at least for when it's a Shade exclusive, let's put it that way. And of course, the two axes in the bottom, because they're useless. And of course, moving on, we got the one and only, the man, the myth, the mineral. It is, of course, the Salty Spire, starting off with the Witch Hunter Captain. Now, there's really no arguing here. The rapier is just the best. Followed closely by the billhook, but since the billhook nerf, it's definitely gotten a lot harder to use. So the skill for using the billhook properly has been significantly raised. It's still one of his best weapons, for sure, without a doubt. But for Witch Hunter Captain specifically, I'm all about that rapier. It's just amazing at so many things. One of the best weapons in the entire game. Then we have the bracer pistols.
But apparently, actually, the one-shot crossbow is actually better than the bracer.
But shut the For the Witch Hunter Captain, you get the bracer pistols, okay? So you can headshot stuff, get critical hits, and execute them. It's amazing. It's just a good feeling. Also because, you know, the 100 dodge count and the 25% dodge distance. Oh god, I love it. It's so, when your ranged weapon has more mobility than your melee weapon, you're like, Anyways, so in the S tier we got the rapier, the billhook, and the bracer pistols. In the A tier we got axe and falchion and the one-shot crossbow. Now, if this is anything like the first video I made, 99.9% of you are gonna be like,
no, the axe and falchion is much better than the billhook.
and no, they're not. They're really not. I'm not even sure they're better than the flail, if I'm being perfectly honest, but for the Witch Hunter Captain they are, for sure. For the Witch Hunter Captain, they're actually still pretty good, despite the fact that they nerfed the one great thing about them, which was the critical hit, added critical hit on the push block attack, which it no longer has, but still a good all-around weapon. It feels good, it is good. I mean, I still haven't gotten myself an axe, but I'll definitely get it sometime for Christmas, so we can have our very own axe and falcon, guys. It's gonna be amazing. Yeah. Nothing like a little bit of good old axe and falcon. There's just something satisfying about. I know this is a little bit of a side move here. You'll have to excuse me, but there's just something really like when you feel the weight of this thing, and it's like the perfect size. It really, it's just really fun. Anyways, moving on. Okay, so then you got the two-handed sword and the flail. Now they're in the middle simply because neither of them really fit the Witch Hunter Captain's playing style. It can be done, it can be viable, but they don't do it as well as the former weapons, in my opinion. Then you have the falchion at the end, because it's just the worst axe and falchion, and you got the axe, because it's just the worst axe and falchion. Now, the reason that the axe is at the very bottom is because it has no cleave. Having no cleave is a lot worse than having low armor damage. No cleave at all whatsoever means you have to be perfect, right? Or have the mobility of a shade with dual daggers, which you don't have. So that's why it's in the bottom. And the repeater gun and the volley crossbow, neither of them really benefit Witch Hunter Captain comparatively. So that's why they are also in the bottom. Moving on, we got the Bounty Hunter. Now, again, the Rapier in the top, because it has mobility, it has amazing defensive traits and capabilities, so it allows you to survive. And survivability is your primary focus when you pull out your melee weapon on a ranged focus hero such as the Bounty Hunter. It's like your DPS doesn't matter if you can't stay alive. Now, for the Bounty Hunter's ranged weapon, the one-shot crossbow is the most consistent on the highest difficulties of the game. That being said, the bracer pistols are still a lot more fun. Or you got the repeater handgun, which again is just a good feel-good weapon. One-shot, headshotting, chaos warriors, and just in general, it just has a really unique and interesting feel to it, and it is a viable weapon. Axe and Falchion, again, because it has decent mobility. That's actually one of the keystones of that weapon, and that's also why it's been placed above the billhook for the Bounty Hunter specifically, because you can struggle a lot with the billhook, especially since the nerf, which made it so much harder to use. Which is also why you have the Falchion down in the same tier, in the B tier, all of which again are viable and totally reasonable weapon choices, as well as the volley crossbow, again totally reasonable, but not the top tier. And in the bottom, well, again, it's the two-handed sword, it's the flail, and it's the one-handed axe, because neither really fit his playing style. The melee weapons don't focus on survivability, except for the axe, which has decent decent mobility, but again, no cleave, which sort of ruins the whole point. And yeah, now moving on, we got the Psycho Zealot, and also one of the easiest heroes in the game, in a lot of ways. Oh, no, that's the wrong way to put it. One of the most forgiving heroes in the game, if you want to just hack and slash. Now, he benefits, the reason that he doesn't have any weapons in the bottom tier is because he's one of those heroes, sort of like Handmaiden, where anything goes, because of all his passives, right? And because of that, he can really use any melee weapon efficiently. But they're not all created equal even here. Now, the hardest and best weapon is still the billhook for the Zealot. It's not easy to use, but it's still incredibly strong if you know what you're doing. Followed closely by the flail and the two-handed sword. Now, again here, you might think that the Axe and Falchion should reign supreme, at least be in the A tier, but I'm sorry, they just aren't as good. You're gonna get overwhelmed once you get up to the highest difficulties. They simply don't have the cleave and armor damage required, maybe for a single minion at a time, but here you have two weapons where you can damage and stagger multiple armored elites. You have the attack speed for it, you have the armor damage for it, and the Axe and Falchion simply lacks there. Like, it's fine on Legend, even on Kata if you know what you're doing, but it isn't as good. It just isn't. And again here, ranged weapon wise, the one-shot crossbow, simply because you want to guarantee that special kill. Bracer pistols are also great, so you can hit certain, like, two-shot storm vermin breakpoint if you utilize the power buff that he has from being low HP. And yeah, and you got the normal axe and the normal falchion in the bottom. Both of them are honestly not that bad. If you're playing the Zealot, you already have your mobility. So yeah. And up next we got the Bride Witch. Oh yes, yes, yes. Don't play with fire. Anyways, now as for the Battle Wizard, you guessed it. You saw it coming from a mile away. S tier, it is the Flaming Sword, and it's the Conflag. And I wish there was another weapon up there with it, but there just isn't. Like, for the Battle Wizard specifically, the Conflag is just currently miles better than even the Beam Staff or the Bolt Staff. It just is. The amount of crowd control you can obtain from it while still putting out damage is just insane, right? And it's the same for the Flaming Sword. So that's why they're S tier for sure. Right underneath, though, you still have the Dagger, which is slightly worse damage-wise, or like in terms of fighting minions, but it does give you more mobility, and it's still a very, very viable weapon. Then you have the two other primary staff possibilities. The one-shot build with the bolt staff, which is not amazing, but it gets the job done, especially in solo queue, and it's a lot of fun. Or you could do another burn build with the beam staff, which is a lot less effective for hard things, but it does have insane boss damage, like insane boss damage, because of the ticking dot from the beam, of course. In general, overall, it's definitely one of the best stuff, if not the best. Next weapon we have is the Flaming Flail and the one-handed sword. Now, why are they in the middle? Well, really, these are the two most versatile of her melee weapons, and that's why they're in the middle. They're in the middle here because the Battle Wizard isn't really focused on that, despite the name being Battle Wizard. They don't really bring something to sort of synergize with her, right? But they get the job done, and that's why they are in the middle, whereas the crowbar, crowbill, flaming crowbill, and also the two-handed mace, they're in the bottom. And I really wish that the crowbill was back on the menu. I really wish it was better. Like, I know it was broken right when it came out, but now it's like a one-handed axe, right? It's just horrible. It's just bad all around. It's just bad. In terms of the staffs, neither of them really play to our strengths, but you can use the burn build with either of them. Like, totally possible, totally doable. Nothing wrong with that, with the exception of the bolt staff. You don't use the burn build with the bolt staff. Then you're gonna have a bad time. And up next we got Le Pyromancer. And as you can see in the S tier, we got the Flaming Flail and the Beam Staff. The Beam Staff because of its versatility, and the Flaming Flail because it's the best all-around melee weapon for the for 𝒮𝔞𝔤. But here's the thing, right? The reason it's better here than, say, the Flaming Sword and Flaming Dagger is because of Fat Shark logic. Here's what I mean. The Battle Wizard is called the Battle Wizard, yet she's the most cowardice of all the 𝒮𝔞𝔤s, right? She'll like burn, run away, burn, run away, right? And then you got the Pyromancer, which is supposed to be the sniper, and used to be, right? It's like the ranged, it's the Waystalker of 𝒮𝔞𝔤, right? The ranged focus one. Yet, she doesn't work as a sniper for multiple different reasons. For starters, like the meta right now for the Pyromancer is to build her as a melee class, where you gain attack speed, high crit chance, and you just smash things. And that's why the Flaming Flail is best for her. But it's so upside down. She doesn't work as a sniper. Because if I were to take the 𝒮𝔞𝔤 equivalent of this not real M4, and I stood like right over here, right? And if you were a strengthler coming at me right now, right? And I'm waiting. Like, I'm waiting, you're red now. It's targeted. It's locked in. And poof! Oh. How did I hit Bardin in the face? Somehow it did a 180 and shot Bardin in the face, who was behind you, right? And it's not just because I equipped dwarf tracking on my ulti. I promise that's not why. It's also not because Bardin has shot me 4 times in the back with his throwing axe. It is because the targeting of Pyromancer's ulti is absolutely trash, okay? Like, it'll either shoot completely opposite direction, or it'll do a pinball, like, and like fly away off into space somewhere, shoot down a satellite, some shit like that. Like, that's why she doesn't work as a sniper. Now, that's also why the high DPS, like the versatile weapons, like the one-handed sword, works great. You can even build a fireball staff with barrage. You can build a crit build with the bolt staff, and then have the trait that makes critical hits free of overcharge. That's another way to do it. And then in the bottom, you got things like the conflag staff, which actually can't get a critical hit, at least not on the AoE attack, which means it doesn't really benefit. The same with the Flamestorm staff. It also doesn't benefit from the critical hits, and that's really what you build the Pyromancer around, so that's why they're in the bottom. The Flaming Crowbill is a little bit better on Pyro because of the attack speed, better at killing armor, but really yeah, it's not great either way, right? So anyways, let's move on to the Unchained. Django Unchained. No, okay. Similar story, you got the best melee weapon she has in the top, the most versatile staff in the top. A little bit of a switcheroo here. We bumped up the one-handed sword because it has way better armor damage than the flaming sword and the flaming dagger, which is more important for the Unchained. And the fireball staff because it's really good with barrage. That's a greedy way to do it, but nonetheless, that sort of plays to her strengths. It's a quick weapon. Bolt staff again for the one-shot as well as you can, one-shot specials, but not great either. And in the very bottom, we have sort of a mixture of the conflag staff, which you can actually do one build with a conflag staff and a dagger, but that's sort of off meta, right? It's for the sake of argument, in a normal game, you would almost never be using the conflag staff on her. And you got, yeah, Flamestorm staff, like, doesn't really fit the bill. You're already gonna melee. You don't want to start focusing on killing hordes with a Flamestorm staff. And yeah, that's about it. We got through it. We made it. Anyways, that was my tier list for the weapons of Warhammer Vermintide. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Just thought I'd mention two things really quick. First of all, this is a tier list, right? But Vermintide is a balanced game. So if you like a weapon, if you enjoy using a weapon, then don't let this dissuade you from using that weapon. Because again, in the context of normal gameplay, all of the weapons are totally feasible on any hero if you're willing to do it. Like if you're willing to put in the hours to learn the weapon, then use the weapons you enjoy. Like, it's a game. You're having a good time. Play it. Have some fun. Secondly, I thought I'd just mention that in roughly 10 days, when Cyberpunk 2077 comes out, we are going to be doing a 24-hour live stream. That's right, 24-hour live stream. Haven't tried that before myself. I have been playing for 24 hours plenty of times, but I've never done a 24-hour live stream, so we're going to do that for the Cyberpunk 2077 launch. Hopefully some of you guys will come hang out with me. It's going to be a good time, and as always,
to the 𝒮𝔲𝔢𝔯𝔞𝔡 squad.
The timing. The timing. Shout out to 𝒮𝔤𝔢𝔯𝔞𝔡, my new subscriber. I love it when that happens. It's so amazing. I swear to God, that was not planned. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, love you guys. Stay awesome.
Peace out.